When you book a hotel, you expect a clean bed, a safe place to sleep, and maybe even a good view. But what happens when your dream stay turns into a waking nightmare? I thought I was just checking in for a few nights, but what I experienced in these 3 hotels still haunts me to this day. From strange noises behind locked doors to something I wasn't supposed to see. These weren't just bad stays, they were terrifying. Here are the 3 hotel nightmares that made me question if I'll ever travel again. Story 1. Room 313. Wasn't in the booking. I travel a lot for work, nothing glamorous, mostly logistics gigs that have me hopping between warehouses and shipping offices across the country. Most of the time, I book budget hotels close to the job site. Basic stuff, a clean bed, working Wi-Fi, and enough hot water to feel human again. So when I booked the Orchid Lane Hotel for a 3-night stay in Wisconsin, it didn't even register on my radar. Just another place to crash. But something was off from the moment I pulled into the parking lot. It was dead silent. No other cars, no people walking around, no signs of life except the flickering vacancy sign in the window. The building itself was a weird blend of old and new, like someone had tried to renovate it halfway and just gave up. Parts of the exterior were sleek and modern, while other corners were crumbling, moldy, and still bore that 1970s mustard-colored paint. I checked in at the front desk. The woman there didn't smile. Her name tag said Deborah, and she spoke with the kind of flat, rehearsed tone you'd expect from someone who hadn't had a genuine interaction in years. "You're in room 313, 3rd floor, end of the hall." I paused. "Didn't I book room 210? She didn't look up from her computer. "You've been moved. Room 313 is available now." "Whatever." I took the key and headed up. The elevator creaked the whole way up like it was being pulled by ropes that were ready to snap. When I stepped out onto the 3rd floor, the air changed. No joke, it smelled like a mix of chlorine and something metallic, almost like blood. I tried to shake it off. Room 313 was at the far end, just like she said. The hallway lights buzzed and flickered. The door to my room had a deep scratch running down the center, as if someone had dragged something sharp across it. Inside, the room looked normal at first glance. Twin bed, faded carpet, mini fridge, the usual. But the moment I stepped in, I felt a pressure in my chest, like the air was heavier here. Still, I was exhausted. I threw my bag down, took a shower, and knocked out for the night. I woke up at 2:47 a.m. The room was cold, freezing actually. My breath was visible in the air. I checked the thermostat. It was set to 74 degrees. Then I noticed it. The closet door was open. I was 100% sure I had closed it earlier. I got up, walked over and slowly peeked inside. Empty, but just as I turned away, I heard a faint tapping behind me. I spun back around. Nothing. I told myself it was the pipes. Old building, right? But it didn't explain what happened the next night. I was in bed, scrolling on my phone, when the screen glitched. Not froze, glitched. Like a VHS tape jumping frames. Then the light bulb in the bedside lamp burst with a loud pop. The screen on my phone turned completely black and then flashed white, just for a second. On that flash, I saw it, a face reflected in the black screen. Standing right behind me, I turned so fast I nearly dislocated my neck, but no one was there. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. There were deep scratch marks on the inside of the bathroom door. I hadn't noticed them before. 4 long lines like fingernails dragging across the wood, and below it, smeared in something dark brown, were the words, "Don't open the closet." I slept in the hallway that night. No way I was staying inside room 313. When I told Deborah at the front desk the next morning, she barely reacted. "There is no room 313, she said. I blinked. "What?" She turned the monitor so I could see the hotel layout. Room 311, room 315, no 313. "Must have been a mistake," she said, deadpan. "You're listed in room 210. I stood there frozen. My key still said 313. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I had taken in the room. They were all gone, every single one, just black images. I left that day, didn't even ask for a refund. But a month later, I got curious. I looked up Orchid Lane, Hotel, Wisconsin, room 313. What I found made my blood run cold. 10 years ago, a guest named Elliot S. went missing in room 313. He was traveling for work. Hotel staff claimed he checked out, but his car was still in. The lot and all his belongings were in the room. No signs of forced entry, the only thing out of place. The words, "Don't open the closet," were found scratched into the inside of the bathroom door. And then, a year later, another disappearance. Same room. Since then, the hotel removed room 313 from the booking system. Physically sealed it. Off. Or tried to. I don't know what I walked into, but sometimes, late at night, I'll wake up freezing cold. I'll reach for my phone and for a split second the screen flashes white. And I swear, I still see that face. Story 2. The guest who never checked out. I wasn't supposed to be at that hotel. My original Airbnb cancelled on me last minute, some plumbing issue or whatever. So I had to scramble for a last-minute place near downtown Charleston. That's how I ended up at the Palmetto Inn, a strange little hotel tucked between an antique store and a shuttered laundromat. The photos online were decent. It looked a little dated, sure, but it had good reviews and a price I could stomach. I booked it without thinking twice. Big mistake. I checked in around 9 p.m. The lobby was old-fashioned with faded wallpaper, a dusty chandelier, and that sweet, musty smell old buildings have, like mold trying to wear perfume. The man at the front desk looked like he hadn't blinked in years. His name tag read Wallace, and he spoke with the politeness of someone who was definitely hiding something. "You'll be in room 204, second floor, left at the end of the hall." I thanked him and grabbed the key. Not a key card. An actual brass key. That should have been the first red flag. Room 204 looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1960s. The bed was covered in a quilt that smelled faintly of mothballs. The TV had a built-in VHS player. The bathroom tiles were cracked and yellowing, but I was exhausted. I unpacked, took a quick shower, and climbed into bed. That's when I noticed it. A chair in the corner facing the bed. Nothing on it. Just placed there. Uncomfortably close. I figured someone moved it and forgot to put it back. I pushed it to the wall and went to sleep. At 3:12 a.m. I woke up freezing. I reached for the blanket and sat up. And that's when I saw it. The chair was back in the corner facing me. I stared at it for a full minute, too scared to move. Had I imagined moving it? Then I heard it, a whisper, faint, right next to my ear. "She's still here." I jumped out of bed and flipped every light on. Nothing, no one in the room. I checked the hallway, empty. But when I returned, something was different. There was an imprint on the bed, on the left side, as if someone had been lying there just moments before. I barely slept that night. In the morning, I asked Wallace at the front desk if anyone had complained about weird stuff happening in room 204. He didn't look surprised. Just sighed and said, "That room gets active. You want to switch?" I didn't want to seem paranoid, so I shook my head. "It's fine. Just wanted to check." His expression didn't change, but before I turned away, he said something that stuck with me. "If you hear knocking tonight, don't answer, not even if they say they're housekeeping." That night, I tried to brush it off, told myself it was just exhaustion, my brain playing tricks. I even moved the chair out, into the hallway, just to prove it was all in my head. At exactly 2:43 a.m., the knocking started. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. I froze. The hotel was silent, the kind of silence that's too complete, like the building itself was holding its breath. Then a voice. "Housekeeping. Female." Soft, but not quite right. Like someone pretending to sound normal, like they were practicing human speech. I stayed still, didn't answer. Then I heard it again. Not from the hallway this time, from inside the room. Housekeeping. I turned toward the bathroom, and the door slowly creaked open. No one was there, but the mirror had fogged up even though I hadn't showered that night. And written across the glass, with a fingertip, "She never checked out." I grabbed my bag and ran out of the room. Wallace wasn't at the front desk. No one was. I got in my car and drove to a 24-hour diner. Shaking, trying to convince myself I was dreaming, I didn't go back the next night. I ate the cost and stayed somewhere else. A week later, I did some digging. Room 204 had been the subject of an unsolved missing person case. A young woman named Melanie Griggs had checked into the Palmetto Inn in 1997. She was traveling alone. According to records, she never checked out. Her stuff was found neatly packed. Her car was still in the parking lot. The cleaning lady found her bed made, the chair moved to face it, and one strange thing, a message on the bathroom mirror. She never left. People say her spirit still lingers, repeating the last things. She heard the last things she did, sitting in that chair, watching, waiting for someone to see her. That's why the room stays cold. That's why the chair moves. And that's why Wallace warned me not to answer the door. Because sometimes it's not who you think it is. Story 3. The key was already in the door. I was supposed to be celebrating. After 6 months of back-to-back deadlines and barely enough time to sleep, I finally took a break. Just me, my camera, and a solo road trip through the Rockies. I wasn't looking for luxury, just quiet, peace, and maybe a good view. That's why I booked a room at the Everpine Lodge. It was nestled deep in the mountains, about 20 minutes from the nearest town. The photos made it look rustic but cozy. Wooden beams, fire pits, pine trees, as far as the eye could see. And for the first day, it was exactly what I needed. But everything changed the moment I checked into cabin 6. When I arrived at the front desk, the girl working there, her name tag said Mira, gave me a strange look when I mentioned the cabin number. "Are you sure it's cabin 6? She asked. I showed her my reservation confirmation. She hesitated, then handed me a key attached to a green oval tag with a faded number 6 on it. "Okay. Just so you know, there's no housekeeping over there. And no landline. Cell service drops out in that part of the property." I shrugged. "That's fine. I came here to unplug anyway." Mira didn't smile. "Right," she said, "unplug." Cabin 6 sat at the edge of the woods, a little more isolated than the others. I didn't mind. It made it feel like I had the whole mountain to myself. But when I walked up to the door, I froze. The key was already in the lock. I stood there for a moment, staring at it. Maybe housekeeping forgot to remove it? Still, something about it made the hairs on my neck rise. I opened the door slowly and stepped inside. Everything looked untouched. The bed was made, the lights were off, and a welcome basket sat neatly on the table. Still, I checked the bathroom and closets. Nothing, no one. I figured I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin had been recently occupied. That night, I built a fire, took a few photos of the sunset, and sat on the deck with a book. By 10 p.m. I was ready to crash. I locked the door, shut the curtains, and got into bed. I must have drifted off fast because the next thing I remember was waking up to the sound of something dragging across the floor, like a heavy object being scraped slowly from one end of the cabin to the other. I sat up, heart pounding. The fire had gone out and the cabin was completely dark. I reached for my phone. No signal. Of course. Then came the second sound, footsteps, not heavy, slow, deliberate, almost careful, like someone trying not to wake me. I stayed frozen under the covers, listening. The footsteps circled the bed, and then stopped, right behind my head. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream but didn't dare, and then a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I sat up fast and turned on the flashlight. Nothing, no one. But the chair that had been by the table was now right next to my bed, facing it. And on the seat was something that hadn't been there before, a photo of me standing on the cabin's front porch, taken just hours earlier. I left the cabin and ran through the dark, back toward the main lodge. I didn't stop until I reached the front office, pounding on the glass until Mira opened the door in a bathrobe. I showed her the photo, breathless. She didn't even look surprised. "You stayed in 6, she asked. "You weren't supposed to go there. It's been closed for months." I held up my phone. "I booked it online. It was available." She shook her head. "The system glitched. You weren't meant to see that cabin." I asked her what she meant. She told me that cabin 6 used to be open to guests until last winter, when a man staying there vanished. No signs of struggle, no note, no credit card activity. The only thing he left behind was his camera. The memory card was full of photos. Every single one of them was of him sleeping, taken from inside the cabin, from different angles, sometimes just inches from his face. The final photo was of him standing on the porch, just like the one I had been given. The police searched the woods for weeks, never found a body. After that, the owners sealed off cabin 6 and delisted it from the system. But every so often, it reappears online, just for a night, as if the lodge itself is offering it up again. And the people who take the offer, they don't always leave. I left the next morning, drove 10 hours straight without stopping. I never looked back, but a few days ago I got a letter in the mail. No return address, no note inside, just a single photo of me sleeping. Would you still book that hotel after hearing these stories? Or maybe next time you'll think twice before turning the key. If these gave you chills, you haven't seen anything yet. Check out the video on screen for more real travel. Horror stories you were never meant to hear, including one where a guest never made it out of the elevator. Trust me, it only gets weirder from here. Stay curious, stay safe, and never ignore that feeling that something's off. See you in the next nightmare.